I don't think there's any business today in this part of the world or even outside Africa that does business without information asset of theirs. And that's why most times when we are discussing from the cybersecurity angle, one thing I don't get most times is that you will not hear either the risk guys, the cybersecurity guys talk about where their information asset is. Either it's within the cyberspace or is on-prem. You need to be able to determine where all your assets reside before you now know the type of threats and vulnerabilities that can potentially exploit the value you are deriving from those assets. Similarly, we have 22301, the business continuity management system. Okay? And most importantly, these days, that is, we have less than 2 weeks for compliance to the Nigerian data protection regulatory demand for mandatory annual audits. Okay, so we have the big guy, the privacy information management system. And of course, we can have on and on and on most of these ISOs that we can leverage to ensure compliance. So like we said, it's a comprehensive approach. And most importantly, and even what I would call the structure of any management system, is risk management, the guidelines and principles of risk management according to ISO 31000. Am I audible enough? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, sir, you're good.
Okay. Objective. So why ISO? What exactly do we intend to achieve with leveraging ISO? It's for us to have a proactive, not a reactive approach to establish a proactive, and that's why we call it a strategic objective, a strategic direction that will follow with an action plan, and resilient, something you can stick with over time, and also certifiable compliance posture. So if you decide to make it a strategic direction and also to have action plan and also to make it resilient, even if you are not going for certification, like everyone who wants to say my organization is certified, you have built for yourself a very good compliance posture. Okay, so that's our own objective. We don't try to sell certification for the cameras. We try to make sure you have a very good strategic focus to achieve those set objectives and goals that the owners of the business have set. So how will this happen? Of course, it's by integrating these frameworks that you mentioned. Okay, you can achieve what we call a unified governance. Unified governance. Even in cybersecurity now, we have unified threat management system. We are unifying everything from data, application, and of course, network security together. So we need to do the same for compliance. If I ask us individually for the benefit of what we are saying, I'm sure the amount each organization has spent down in the budget for penalty, we can turn that money to value for the organization. Also, to reduce what we call operational redundancies. There's a lot of operational redundancies within various organizations, within various sectors of our various economies. And most importantly, to enhance risk visibility. We all know one thing for sure: risk is only visible when you go to the risk department. And if you ask that organization, they will tell you they have enterprise risk management. And when you mean enterprise, that means even the security man at the gates understand the culture of risk when you go to risk department. However, that is not supposed to be the case. That means the culture of risk is very low. So therefore, this will help us to enhance risk visibility, and most importantly, to demonstrate credibility and trust and commitment to all stakeholders, including the regulators, the owners of the business, the auditors, and most importantly, the employees as well, to see a future for the organization. So let's now look at it from the compliance imperative. What is the compliance imperative? Now, we all agree and know that the following are the regulatory landscape we are all operating within. Most organizations operate within a dense web of legal, one, regulatory, and ethical obligations that spans the following. For example, with all due respect to our other fellow countries that are here from different jurisdictions, we have the Nigerian Data Protection Act, we have the Nigerian Revenue Service, which of course is a new thing now back here. We have same thing happening in Kenya. We have, I just read about the Child Protection Act of Uganda, because we also have a company down there that we work with. We also have different national data protection acts, and most importantly, GDPR. And of course, the list keep going on and on. We also have what we call financial reporting. We also have anti-corruption, okay? Anti-corruption, for example, we are going to, in subsequent sessions, we are going to also be discussing anti-bribery management system. TJ, I think you need to put that down, where we can leverage that particular standard and see how we can use it to address some other anti-money laundering related concerns. I'm going to touch base on that here as well. Then we have your industry specific regulations. For example, there are some obligations if you're in the fintech or the commercials, I mean the banking sector within, either within Nigeria, is the same in Kenya, is the same in Ghana, is the same that is going to be also in Somalia, and most importantly in Uganda as well. We also have environmental mandates to ensure that we comply with. So what are the insights? Let's look at it from the costs of non-compliance has never been higher than what we're experiencing now. For example, we have the NDPA. The NDPA expects you to register as a data controller and a data processor, whichever one that applies, to determine also the total amount of personal data you are processing. And if anything goes wrong, you are paying a fine of 10 million or 2% of your gross income. Money you make, 2% of your gross, whichever one is higher, according to the Nigerian Data Protection Act, signed into law by Mr. President 2023, specifically June. You also want to look at the reputational damage that is going to keep doing to your brand and to yourself as one of the key professional resource within your compliance space. You also want to look at the operational disruption that it could bring to you. For example, the organization that had that issue of fire, that we lost almost 2 or 3 persons working in the organization. The question raised during that session, while I was away, people from different jurisdictions were using what was happening, and they found out the organization had ISO 22301, and they still lost life. Was it that they didn't test the BCP and the business continuity plan and the disaster recovery system? What was their 22301 looking at? Okay, we'll discuss that as during the course of this exercise. We also want to look at loss of stakeholders' trust. Most definitely, like the instance I gave, we all know the brand, but for reasons of not trying to pull them down, I wouldn't want to actually bring it up here. They must have lost what? Trust and confidence in some of their customers. And this can threaten your what? Organization's viability. I hope I'm communicating, guys.
Yeah, yes, you are. Bingo.
Hello? Okay. So we've talked about the approach, we've talked about the objectives. So how do we now move from reactive to proactive compliance practices? Because either we like it or not, we've been sitting on the reactive compliance practices. When the fine come, you know you've made provision. How much did you make provision for? Go and meet the chief compliance officer. You just quickly go and pay. You can turn that resource into something more profitable for the organization, especially now that resources are becoming leaner because of the global risk terrain or landscape that is facing almost every organization. Trust me, the energy budget of this year, if care is not taken for each organization, you will finish it before April. So how are you going to get another energy resource to push your operation to more effective and more operational because of what is happening in the Gulf states? Okay. So what are the challenges of how we've been doing it before? It's usually characterized by periodic audits, internal audit guys. That is, if you have that 3 lines where you have control, audits, and the main process, and you have an external auditor that will come. If that is even happening, you are lucky. However, it's still characterized by what we call the periodic audit. And we also have silo functions. Silo functions. You can see risk is doing IT risk for IT, and IT is not aware. And one of the key requirements of principles, rather, of 31001 risk management is that all stakeholders must be involved during the entire process of risk management. You're also having to do what we call reactive remediation. Reactive remediation, when it happens. What happens to before it happens? So that means the culture of risk maturity is very low, with all due respect, because you are not being proactive. You are not looking at risk from the opportunity aspect and being proactive so that you'll be able to, just like what we're having in the Gulf state, just like what happened also during COVID. A lot of CROs were asked the question, how come you didn't anticipate this? Okay. Then it proves that you have insufficiency in your dynamic environment, because every organization have that dynamic environment, no matter how small or big you are. So it proves that there's what? Insufficiency in your dynamic environment and non-interoperability of compliance processes. Compliance is supposed to be like an octopus, a big octopus that has multiple legs. When all those multiple legs are there, then the head can stand strong. That is especially from the compliance perspective. And of course, you usually have absence of stakeholders' involvement. So these are the challenges we've been seeing and experiencing when it comes to this issue of compliance approaches. So how do we approach ISO as a proactive option now that we've seen what we've been doing from the other angle? So basically, ISO will enable us to have what we call a paradigm shift towards what? 2 keywords: continuous and sustainable perspective for what? For the strategic objective attainment. You can see that compliance alone is looking at where the direction the organization is going, how to make sure we get to that destination, and how to achieve set goals and objectives. That's what it's going to do for you. So it's not saying we are going to go to the whole world and go to the cameras and say we are ISO this certified. I think it is high time we start sitting away from that. If you now decide you want to have the certification for the cameras, you now know that it's just going to be what? Little amount of effort that will be added to what you've achieved. Why? Because you already have a continuous shift. something you can keep doing repeatedly with measurements, and is also sustainable. And the goal is not looking at what you do to the cameras, but what you do towards your strategic objectives attainment. Very, very important. And that's why when I'm having sessions like this or I'm consulting, I ask employees as a consultant, we usually ask a question: where is the organization going? In most cases, people will say, what do you mean by that? I don't understand. They say, okay, what's your strategic objectives? What are your goals? What are your mission? Because that is what any management system is supposed to help you drive towards. All right? So it's going to be basically based on risk. Very, very important. In fact, I call it the anatomy of management system. If I have to go the medical way, even though I'm not, it's just I have a very, I think I made an A in my biology back then. Anatomy of management system is what? Risk. And if there's no anatomy, there's no body. If there's no anatomy, there's no brain. If there's no anatomy, there's no arm, there's no legs. Also, we have what we call integrated compliance management. That means we are going to be bringing those approaches from 37301, ISMS, PIMS, and the likes of them to drive our strategic objectives, to make sure we can attain and we can also achieve set goals and objectives. And this ICM, like we've been using, that can anticipate what are the obligations? And you ask me, what kind of obligations? You have regulatory obligations, you have corporate obligations, you have data protection and privacy obligations, you have corporate affairs obligations, you have tax obligations, you have anti-money laundering related obligations. And what are the requirements? Two key things: obligations and what are the requirements? What are you expected to do? Also, encompassing all stakeholders, everyone has to be on board. Not just everyone, and their what? Processes. And that's why when I'm in the technology space, because of my background, I usually ask a question: can you demystify your entire IT? And that's why enterprise architects, if I have to, we can bring that up during the course of our webinar. The essence of enterprise architecture in attaining strategic objective of any organization. We need to know the processes, the underlying function, the people, the technology that are driving those things. We need to bring all together. And what's the objective? So that we can prevent violations and create what we call sustainable competitive advantage. Any question at this point? Or we should go ahead till when we're done. TJ, should I continue?
Yes, you can go ahead.
All right, so how do we now make sure this is done? The compliance architecture. That's the core standards that we are looking at. The cornerstone of compliance management system is that standard. We call it a type A standard because there are different types. I'm sure a lot of people are also not aware. 37,301 2021 compliance management system is a type A, meaning it is certifiable and auditable. That means you can use it to measure how well you are doing. It is not just to have the ISO. You can use it. That's why in most developed economies, they leverage these standards to check performance and growth. But we leverage the standard for the audience, for the cameras, for our websites, okay, rather than merely providing guidance. That's why it's called a type AMSS. What is it all about? What are the core components of it? It's an high-level structure, okay, common to most modern ISO standard, organized around what? Very important cycle. The plan, do, check, act cycle. That means you can plan to leverage the requirements within, you need to carry them out. You have people, internal or external, to do a check for you because of the principles of independence according to ISO 19011. One key principle is what? Independence. I went for a project somewhere in southern part of Africa. And when I got there, I remembered during the project meeting, of course, everybody, it was a consulting and capacity building for ISMS, ISO 27001. And during the course of that, my first meeting with all stakeholders, internal stakeholders, I had the opportunity to ask questions. Where are you from? What's your role? I saw husband audits, IT audit specifically. I saw wife, system administrator. And I said, Madam, does this man come to audit you routinely? He said, yes. I said, when he gets home, and does he discuss with you what happened? Everybody looked at me. And I asked a question. I said, according to ISO 19011, do we think there will be independence in that process? In fact, about 4 people out of 12 said, yes, they've been saying it. I said, they are not my words. Can you defend that both of you cannot do something together, especially for her that is a system administrator? And if she's also found wanting, I'm sure that guy will not have dinner when they get back home. Either it's a joke, or either you like it or not, there's going to be either ripples at home or ripples at the office. So the principles of independence is very important. And that's why I love the latest ISO standard on ISMS. There's a requirement that says you should have an independent check of your ISMS or your security posture. So check is very, very key. Likewise, in the acts, after checking, have you subjected them to further actions by management review so that you can have the whole complete cycle? So therefore, we have context of the organization. In which way are you guys trying to, from your internal perspective, external perspective, what are the requirements? What are our obligations? Then most importantly, leadership. Either it is this part of the world or in other jurisdictions outside Africa or what have you, leadership is very important because you need various types of resources, technology resources, financial resources, administrative resources, and of course, approvals for policies, procedure, and direction. And planning, which risk is going to be part of it, not just risk, and opportunities as well. Then the kind of support that is also required. You can see for some of us that we've done other ISO standards, you can see the similarities. Then the operations, and most importantly, the performance evaluation. And after then, of course, is improvement. Okay. So let's now look at the ISO standard we've discussed, we've mentioned. I'm going to take 1 or 2 because of our time to look at the integrated compliance management system posture when it comes to various ISO standards. Okay. We have the 37,301, the compliance management system itself is, of course, is almost 100%. We have that of information security. Integration will mean that the requirements of each of these standards you are seeing on my screen will give you that level of integrated compliance, irrespective of what you are doing. And I'm going to use two as a very typical example for us to see. Similarly, 31,000 also has a very strong root linked with 37,301, 80%. None is below 60%, as you can see. The same thing goes with privacy, and the same thing goes with ISO 22301. Now, I'm going to be diving in specifically into how we can see the benefits of this integration. Let's look at it from 27,701, 2025 standard gap assessment for the Nigerian Data Protection Act. We have done this also for Uganda. I've done this research also for Kenya, and of course, we have also done for GDPR. And most importantly, for GDPR, there's an annex within 27,701 that speaks specifically to the requirements of what we are expected to do with GDPR. If you look at here, what are you seeing here? That's 27,000, that's the Privacy Information Management System and the Nigerian Data Protection Compliance. So what that means, because we've been discussing this with a couple of organizations, forget to tell you, we are also what? Licensed Data Protection Compliance Organization by the Nigerian Data Protection Compliance. If you look at it here from the green part, it has what? 42% has a high 80 to 90% compliance. That means if you have implemented PIMS, that's Privacy Information Management System, to an extent, some of the requirements, especially when it comes to controls, you have done that to the tune of more than 42%, and it will give you a high figure of almost 80 to 90% of compliance. Similarly, when it comes to the medium parts, and you can see the other ones. Now let's dive into the structures of the NDPA as what? A data protection and privacy laws of our great country, Nigeria. For example, we have governance and accountability. We have operational controls. We also have technical security. And we have what? Regulatory specifics. So what I did was, look at this here. That's a legend. The coverage and NDPA specific gap. For regulatory specifics, we have more. 60% for, which are those? ISO doesn't know how you want to measure the magnitude of the total number of data you want to process. We have that structure, and that's why this is on the roof, 65%. But however, ISO still has from that regulatory specifics 35%. Look at technical. Our laws have just 10%, with all due respect, for what? Technical security. So if you are looking at this as a professional, you will know that we focus only on laws. But look at technical security. ISO has 90%. So what it means is that if you have implemented 27,001 PIMS, you have covered what is required in NDPA by a whopping 90% when it comes to the context of technical security. Operational controls, 85%. Our NDPA has 15% gap. What happens to governance and accountability? Also very germane, 75%. Our laws, 25% within the context of our SMS. That's why for us, we try as much as we can to give options to our clients that called us for anything around data protection and privacy. Because the truth is this: what is the probability that any one of our organizations will not process personal data of people beyond our jurisdictions? Either you want to look at it from Uganda, Nigeria, Somalia, Kenya, Rwanda. The answer is yes. Oh, okay, we can have a standard contract clause, and of course, we can also have this cross-border transfer laws. Yes, we know. But look at what regulatory is saying. But we need these two to work: operational controls and technical security. Because if you are going to a law court on privacy or data protection related concerns, you need to go with evidence. And now every country, every jurisdiction's evidence acts has now accommodated electronic evidence. So if you don't have evidence around, let's say, for example, consent management system or consent management, or you cannot capture such evidences because of the failure of either operational controls or technical security, it becomes a challenge. And that's why you'll notice that when you even say you have done your filing, you are registered, you are still having breaches. The legal and the DPO will now be dragged, and how do we get evidence to go and defend us in courts? Okay? Now, let's look at another area that is also very important. Okay, I hope this is legible enough, because I just picked the image from my programming stuff. Now, this is also looking at information security management system. You can
Look,
see
Benga, please,
our
can you make
NDP.
it bolder? Can you make it bolder?
Okay.
Enlarge it
Yeah,
more than
let's see.
this for clarity. I mean, can you do it again? Okay, then you can shift it to take it one after so that there will be clarity. Thank you.
It's going out of
Maybe you can move it in between.
is it okay like this?
I think it's okay. From my hand, it's fine. I don't know about the participant. Is it good enough for clarity? Okay, this is good. This is better.
All right.
Okay.
You can see what we have here. That's ISMS versus the NDPA. Okay, and let me just go straight to the one we usually use for top management decision. You can see different areas of our NDPA Act, and you can even see where ISMS itself is. You can see ISMS have covered to an extent this. You can imagine you bringing in ISMS, bringing PIMS for your national data protection, not only Nigeria. You've implemented it, ISMS. You've also implemented PIMS. What it means is that your national data protection law would have been taken care of. Look at the portion that you have a gap. If there's nothing happening here, you probably have not seen any blue, and that is where ISMS is. If you look at it here also, you can see all these places are green. That's what is it called? That's the NDPA Act. And you can see the coverage for ISMS. You can see partial. For example, this is a partial aspect, this is a partial aspect, and this is non-partial. So these ones are full. And of course, you can see the ones that are also fully covered and the ones that are not fully covered. So that means there is a portion of some of these ISMS requirements. It has 94 controls, you can see, and some other mandatory clauses from clause 4 to 10. You can see that we can actually leverage this to achieve our compliance posture. Okay. That being said, let's now look at the information security management system. It's a critical compliance domain. Why? Because it provides us with what? Systematic. That means it's interacting with all other components within your organization. For what? To manage sensitive information assets, to manage sensitive information assets. How? Through the anatomy, which is risk assessment, security control implementation. So from risk, from your assets that you can look at the risk, the known one, and the proactive ones that can come and impede you from achieving your objectives. You now bring the security controls, and you also be able to have what we call continuous improvement. I don't think there's an organization today that operates without the cyberspace. I doubt much. If you are, then you are not a living, with all due respect, organization. So what are the strategic integration with the compliance? That's the 37001. You can see ISMS. You can also see cybersecurity guidelines. Very, very important. We usually don't look at this 27,032, but it's very, very important. It is very, very important. Why? Because it focuses on your assets within the cyberspace. Yes, 27,001 has it, but it's not as detailed specifically for cyber-related asset protection. And another that they usually use in the United States of America is the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0. You can have a mapping and bring everything and align them to your what? 37,001, just like we've done for the privacy information management system. So by implementing both what standard, what do we stand to gain? Okay, you can know, if you notice, since we've been talking, I've not been talking about your certification. We are focusing on what? Continuous structure for unified compliance system. Okay, so what do we stand to gain? You have what we call a unified risk assessment methodology that will cover both your assets within or outside the cyberspace from an information asset perspective. We also have the consolidated control frameworks. Consolidated control frameworks that you can have. An organization have asked me, can we have a consolidated risk-related framework? And that's exactly what we are looking at. That will be looking at everything, including cybersecurity information. Yes, it can be done. Integrated audit programs. So that when audit comes, they won't say, oh, we want to do only ISMS today, we want to do privacy tomorrow. You can have integrated audit programs crafted from your ISO 19001 and 17021. And you can also have shared governance structure. So that when you are going for the normal routine management review, you can go with a structured governance way of tidying up your compliance obligations. The third one, which is like what I said, the anatomy, is the guidelines and principles of risk management. Internationally acclaimed guidelines for what? Enterprise risk management. Even though it is not a certification that is certifiable for organization, but it provides the following. And what are the following? It provides us with what? The key, the bedrock principles you require, and guides on how risk will be handled across your organization's context. Not just risk, but if I need to have, for the benefit of those that have not done the risk management course, opportunity assessments. Because risk can be negative, it can also be positive. Most times we focus on the threats, we don't focus on the opportunities. And that's why we have this jackpot syndrome. Everybody is seeing the negative in Nigeria, and some people sit here and they are still making it do without knowing anybody in Aso Rock. Because a lot of people do see threats they don't see, especially in Africa. The economies of the developed economies are, to me, they have become saturated, if not super saturated. Their growth rate, according to World Economic Forum, is less than the growth rate forecasted for Africa. And it's obvious. I mean, I just arrived from East Africa a few days ago, and Qatar. Okay? Now, it also established the methodology and the methodological rigor that what underpins effective compliance risk assessment. That I'll be looking at 37,301 and other ISO standards. And engaging what? Stakeholders. Very important. It's one of the key principles of risk management in risk assessment. And of course, reporting, and of course, giving you a very good governance structure. That's what 31,000 will infuse with the 37,001 and other ISO standard. Let's now look at the complementary relationship. Okay? Mandatory, operational, and measurable. 31,000. Primary focus, we focus on what? Enterprise-wide risk management, which is usually the bane of most organizations, because operational risk can affect technology risk. Financial risk can affect the chief information security officer. If he doesn't have fund, how will he provide services for security? If there's a strategic risk, what happens? IT will definitely not know what they are using technology to drive. So it has to be from an enterprise-wide perspective. A question was asked. I asked a question during one of my project consulting. Do you have security if the following? You open a door down, and where you have that server, you have network security, you have every kind of security to the data layer of security. But the main door where the server is physically is what? Not locked. It's left wide open. So guys, I want your response. Do we have security? Or is there a risk? Hello? Do we have security or is there a risk? Okay, let me read comments.
You can drop your response on the comment, or okay, Lillian said there is a risk.
Do we have? Okay. Do we have security?
Yeah.
Or is there a risk also? Okay, can you tell me what the risk is?
Yeah.
Yes, tell me what the risk.
Okay, thank you. So this is John. There is risk because for your server room, there's supposed to be a register that shows who enters and who goes out. So your time in and your time out. So if you don't have that, if there's anything, if anybody tamper with your server physically, then there's no way you'll be able to track. Thanks.
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, I can see there should be a limit access. Yes, you tried.
Yeah, there is a risk.
Okay. And what is the risk?
Please, should I proceed? Now, the risk, like
yes,
what the first the person I just spoke just now has said, when you have a security room that is opened, the first thing is the entrance to the security room is not even secured, irrespective of other external factors that we have. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. That's why in the bank, where the money is being kept, there's a place that is being called the strong room. And that strong room is not everybody that have access to it. It's being restricted. So opening the security room shows that it has been exposed, and it shows that there is no, I mean, that there is high risk. Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right. You are all correct. However, I was expecting us to speak from the objective and for us to look at it from an enterprise-wide risk. So I can decide to go in there and just carry the entire box. And that means that entire box or server will not be able to achieve the set objectives. Okay, so that was what I was trying to look at for, but we are all correct. So therefore, enterprise-wide risk management is germane. So what that means is that whoever is supposed to be responsible or held accountable for physical security will be in the loop of things when we are carrying out enterprise risk assessment. I think that's the drive. The risk approach is principles, guided by principle. We just talked about it. One of the key principles is what? Ensuring you have stakeholders involvement. And of course, you also have guidelines to follow. And most importantly, the primary focus of our ISMS is what? Information security risk. And for that risk approach, there are specific controls that you use to mitigate those risk issues. And that's why we say it has 94 controls. And of course, it has certification. 37,301 is compliance, obligation-based and requirements. Obligation-based and requirement. What are your obligations as an organization? What are the obligations of your third party? And what are your obligations to your specific regulatory need within the industry where you operate? And of course, 27,701, structured privacy governance, management, and controls of personally identifiable information, which is PI, what we call PI. It has its own set of controls for the controller, the data controller, the data processor, and of course, also the annexes that has to do with privacy risk assessment, that has to do with the GDPR, which you can easily map. We have that solution as well, where you can map your various national acts when it comes to data protection with GDPR, so that once we implement GDPR from the 27,001 perspective, you have automatically taken care of the laws of your land when it comes to data protection and privacy. So what are the strategic benefits of what we've been talking about so far when it comes to ISO-driven compliance approach? One key benefit would be you're going to have what we call operational excellence, where operational manager or that understands and knows how your organization works. They'll see a lot of excellence coming from an operational perspective. It will reduce redundancy. Why? Because there will be a lot of what? Integration, eliminating duplications, risk assessment, documentation, and audit process. The turnaround time for some of these attacks and activities and functions will be pretty much very good looking. And most importantly also is under operational excellence is resource optimization. You'll be able to have resource optimization eating the BRS minimum. So you'll be able to manage overhead cost of audit processes and the likes of them. And of course, you also need to look at having a common technology platform. During the course of our presentation that we've started now with our partners, smart partners, you will definitely see some of our technology solutions that we've also designed for that space. It also enhances risk visibility. Risk will be visible in almost, even from the main gates to the boardroom, you will see the visibility of risk. It's going to be evident. You cannot hide it. There will be stakeholder confidence and market differentiation that you can use to sell, that you can sell as marketers to people, that if we need to do your KYC, oh no, we have a compliance management system that we design. Is even if the regulator says it's going to take you 5 days, you can let you have everything you want within 48 hours. How come your own is that reduced? Oh, we have integrated all things that we need to check risk-wise, and we have reduced that. So you're going to have stakeholder confidence, and of course, you'll be different in your market space. Strategic agility is another very good thing it's going to do for you. Organization with matured, integrated compliance system will adapt faster. You'll be able to adapt faster to regulatory change. Why? Because all the things as you are expected to do from the compliance perspective, you've taken them into InfoSec, data protection, business continuity, and you can keep counting on and on. Even to AI, okay, I've seen that as well. Even to AI, you've been able to bring all those things. So strategic agility will be on the table for your organization. So what are the compliance benefits? You can see based on what we just talked about. Which one is stakeholders involved confidence will be on the roof. You can see 90% on the average is going to give you based on the statistics that we were able to gather, and we prepared a couple of data. Strategic agility, 88. Enhanced risk visibility, 85. By the time we measure some of these things within your various organizations, they'll probably be very low now. But by the time we get on board, you will not be where anything less than 80% for all this. You will not be where anything less than 80% across all this percentage for benefits. So achieving operational excellence through unified compliance system, you integrate your compliance framework, you give roles in compliance management. Yes, you will tell me, Mr. Gbenga, we have roles already. Yes, we know you do. But what are the things that needs to be done according to the requirements of a particular standard or regulatory? Because if you say, okay, CBN says this, tax office says this, Lagos State or FCDA says this, we accommodate all these obligations and call it inside what we call a compliance register. The same thing applies in Kenya, the same thing applies in Rwanda, the same thing applies. It's the same thing. It's just giving us different face of things. Then it reduces operational redundancy like prevention, and of course, you have continuous improvement. Optimization of resources, most definitely, resource allocation strategies will not change. You have shared governance structure. You can leverage technology for compliance, very important. You can have e-learning system. You can also have the trainings that will cover the entire, not that audit to do training and technology will not do. IT will do training and HR will not do. It's just like a project I got also, and they were doing somewhere in West Africa, and they were doing ISO 22301 and ISMS, and HR was not involved. And I asked a question, who is going to handle your training program according to requirement 7.22? They said the chief information security officer. I said, no, call HR. They should send 2 persons. How many of them? He said there are about 6 in that department. I said, okay, let them give me 3 or 2 that will be part of this project. That was when a lot of things changed. Awareness program changed, capacity building changed, allocation of letters and resources changed. Within 2 weeks, it changed. Why? Because you were not bringing the right people into the sphere of things. So that's, we need to make sure we do, because stakeholders involvement, which ISO 31000 strongly require that we should do. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this particular webinar from my own side. So, you are very free to ask your questions, queries, opinions, and we'll be able to respond to them. Thank you for having me.
Wow, fantastic, Mr. Gbenga. well appreciated. So we'll go into questions. There are other questions that are already penciled down, but let us give opportunity to Lillian. You can unmute your microphone, introduce yourself, where you're calling from, your organization, the part of the world you are, and share your questions or your comments. Thank you. Lillian, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Winger, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you for this opportunity. I don't know, I don't know if there's another speaker that'll be speaking to ISO 9001 2015. So that I'll know if I should just go ahead and ask my question to Mr. Winger.
No, you can go ahead and ask your questions, please.
Okay. So I'm a lead auditor with ISO 9001 2015. And when I saw this up on our CIPM platform, I really wanted to join specifically to see if there'll be a part of discussion around maybe a refresher course. So when I did it in the organization I worked for, it spoke to that organization. And since I left there, I've not been able to actually, do a lot around it. And I want to go back to, I want to, quote unquote, have that refresher course just to get myself in tuned to what it is like to be an auditor, to ensure compliance and all of those. That's my question. Thank you very much, sir. And thanks for the insights.
Oh, okay. All right. Lillian, it's a very simple thing. You can, there's a latest standard for quality management system, and you need to just look to us as your consultant to see how we can have you, depending on the certification body you got your initial certification from. If not, or I usually advise people, if you are not somebody that does those things around QMS routinely, it will be better for you to go to for the latest one. There's a latest QMS standard now. So I will advise you go fully blown to that latest one. That's my candid advice, so that you'll be able to be an authority around it. And for everything we've discussed from 37,301, you can be rest assured that it has what we call an integrated framework for the 9001 with some other things that are specific to quality. But however, always focus on what exactly is the strategic need for having a QMS. Because in most implementations, what I've realized is that people don't focus on the organization's strategic needs or goals or objectives they want to achieve around quality service delivery. I hope that answers your question, Lillian.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
And in addition, Lillian, is
Okay.
also, if I will just give my little insight, is that do you just need an awareness training, or you want to get accredited again?
No, she wants to be an auditor.
Okay, fantastic. And so a telephone line will be shared on the platform. Yinka, drop our contact, our email, so that Lillian can send us a DM that we can respond to her and how we can support her based on our need.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lillian.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, please?
Yes, please.
Any other question?
Yes, sir. I have a question, sir.
Yes, go ahead, please.
All right. My name is Abumere Christian. I'm calling from Lagos. I work with Jide Taiwan Co. HR unit. Mr. Gbenga, I want to sincerely appreciate your insight and your the contribution and everything you've said so far. Thank you so much. But my question is this. What are the first three practical steps an organization should take when adopting ISO standard to improve compliance, especially if they are currently have no structured system?
The first thing you need to do is you need to, of course, have the buy-in of your top management. We are going to bring invoice for you for consulting because this is a consultancy question, but that's why we are who we are, ourselves and our partners. So you need to first of all get the buy-in of your top management. And once you get their buy-in, then the next thing you will do is to now articulate what you want the compliance management system to do for you. Then the next thing you do is now to make sure you can call us, okay, and say, TJ, Benga, you guys should give us a proposal on how we are going to have our compliance management system implemented, not certification. By the time you have that, because I know within the real estate side, you have a lot. Data protection is there, tax is there, Lagos State, Minini, all those things, Lagos State is there. So you now focus on those areas. Will now help you build a fit to you. Then we follow you through. And of course, the third most important thing, which I usually propose, is to have top management should be the first set of people that should come for an awareness session or training, as the case may be. Why I said that is from my industry practice, both home and abroad, UK, East Africa, West Africa, South Africa side, I've realized that things fall under gravity. Physics-wise, it does. Organization-wise, it's the same. If top management don't know what their responsibilities are, they will not approve any policy. Neither will they appropriate resources. So when they are the first in a project of this importance, you can see that they will drive it more than you that will be in the project team. So that's my insight that I can give you, Mr. Christian. I hope that helps.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate that.
Okay,
right,
Christian from GD Taiwan Co.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we are coming for you. You've gotten this insight. I will speak to your people. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on board. I really appreciate it. There is
You're
a
welcome, sir.
question here, Mr. Benga, that says, how do we obtain an ISO for an organization that has long does, and how long does it take? It's one of the questions that came in during the registration for this program. How to obtain an
Oh,
ISO
okay.
for an
Yeah,
organization and how long does it take? But the person was not specific
yeah,
as regards the ISO he's talking
exactly,
about. But just give
exactly,
general.
exactly.
9001 is most of
Okay,
the
generally,
general one. Mm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. With the latest 9001, that's the quality management system, is more detailed and is focused on a lot of things, environment, climate change, and the rest of them. And the good thing is that my humble self, I spent 17 years as a weatherman, okay, and that has given me a lot of knowledge and insights around weather and climate affecting crops, affecting aviation. I actually wrote a very good software for 22 airports back in 2004 for how weather information can be processed to send to control tower. So the good thing they've done was that the latest QMS has a lot to do with environment, sustainability, and the rest of them, which is awesome. So that is what can lengthen the time to maybe like 3 to 4 months, depending on the maturity of the organization when it comes to typical management system. However, irrespective of that, like I said, we can look at 3 to 4 months and make sure we start strategically from the top with capacity building for those big men and big madams so that we'll be able to ensure teams fall under the laws of gravity. Yeah. So 3 to 4 months for any ISO standard, we should be able to drive that pretty much for them. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much. Another question here, if there is none on the platform, let me read the second question. What AML reporting process, AML means anti-money laundering reporting
Money
process,
laundering.
have been automated. I think this person is asking for the automation option. Can it be automated? So that the STRO and CTRO, that is, STRO
Yeah.
means the suspicious transaction report, and
Transaction
also
reports.
and the
Yeah.
currency transaction report. How can we
Reports. Yeah,
integrate
correct.
it in the AML, anti-money laundering reporting processes?
Okay. Now
Can it
that's a
be
good one.
automated?
It's just very, yes, it can be automated. That's it. The first thing we need to do is, what are the obligations bringing, or what are the parties bringing in this anti-money laundering? And the next will be, what are the requirements? Now, within our own, what are the processes and functions that handles it for our own organization? I'm speaking in terms of the person that wrote that question. So by the time we're able to break that down, there's certain requirement of 37,000, but that's the compliance management system that speaks specifically to what needs to be done. Then automating anything you've been broken down, I usually call it atomizing your process. There's an input, there's an activity, and there's an output. Anything
That's
you
right.
can break down to input, activities, and output, you can automate. Anything. I mean, I read computer science, so I have a very strong background when it comes to programming, IT, and stuff like that, even cybersecurity. So you can actually have that done pretty much. In addition to that, I will add this to that person. There's an ISO standard called ISO 37013. It's actually for what? Anti-money laundering and customers' financial transaction guidelines. Is what? A complementary guideline specifically for what? Managing money laundering risk issues. There's an ISO standard for that. Okay, and of course, 27001 supports AML. So you bring that management system component and also the anti-bribery management system. I said that earlier also, where you are, that's ISO 7001. So you bring that all together and you look at your processes, you automate the processes, then you use this management system to drive the entire thing. So it is more than doable. Okay, it is more than, once you can atomize your process, then every other thing will follow suit. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. If we leave Mr. Gbenga on, we keep on going and going. And this is what we are born to do. This is our destiny. This is our purpose being fulfilled. We're always excited when we come on a call like this. And we want to say a very big thank you to each and every one of us. But before we wrap up in the next few minutes, let's say in the next 120 seconds, and we want to say Smart Partners Consulting and is a collaboration business organization that partners with people, professional bodies, big time certification bodies globally, and to attend to the career needs of people. Beyond ISO certification programs, and part of the ISO programs we do, that for your own personal career development, we can take you through the process because we are certified by PCB. If you want it as an individual, you want to go through the independent platform for self-study or e-learning, or you want us to come to your organization to have a corporate training that will lead to certification for the participants, you can enroll. There is a link already on the platform called enrollment form. Click it. Let us know how we can help you out. PCB is, we want to tell you for free, is one of the best ISO certification body in the world. That is why you have us here. We are their strategic partner. Smart partners also, GU, UT, we're also partners with PCB. And if you want to take courses, ISO 9001, 14001, 45,001, the 42,001, cybersecurity, risk management, compliance management that we've spoken to today. And one of the great opportunity from now till 31st of April for Nigerians alone residing in Nigeria. For Nigerians alone residing in Nigeria, PCB has decided to give a very huge discount. So if you're interested to boost your career, have icing on your cake, maybe you are CIPM certified, GPHRO, SPHRO certified, CISA certified, you are a chartered banker, you are ACCA, you are HSC certified, and you need ISO certification, which I always tell people is the icing on all your certification. You can enroll, take advantage of the discount immediately. And if you want us to come to your organization to do consulting services, please reach out to us on my email there, tijani.yemiforha@smartpartnersng.com, and you will get the best of our consulting services on your compliance integrated management system. And you will have an opportunity to keep on scaling and scaling in your organization and also in your career. And I want to say a very big thank you for each and every one of us that have made it here. And for those of you that want to comply to the Data Protection Act that is signed by the government in June 2023, is a great opportunity. Reach out to us. Government of Nigeria is big with compliance. Don't be caught unaware. We've already given you an insight about it. This government is very big with compliance, and it is an opportunity for you to have a call with us and let us take you through it. You can send us an email at tijani@smartpartnersng.com. Let us take you through the process and let us help your organization before you start paying 10 million naira penalty, or you pay 2% on your gross income annually. Imagine
gross income.
Yeah. And imagine you've made 1 billion naira gross income and you are paying 2%. That is not a child's play amount. And you would have solved this problem with something far less than that. So reach out to us. Thank you so much, Mr. Benga. More of this will be coming up next month again. Monthly Knowledge Cafe. Different topics. You can go to our YouTube channel if you want to have a full grasp of it, and you check us out on our YouTube channel for you to have a continuation of it. Thank you, each and every one. And I want to say, before we wrap up, I need a volunteer, a gentleman, and a wonderful woman, a wonderful lady, to just give us a vote of thanks in the next 30 seconds each. You can unmute your mic and give us a vote of thanks. Just tell us what resonates with you, what you're going to take out of this, and how you felt about this webinar this afternoon. I know some people are leaving the call. If there's anybody that just want to say something before we wrap up. Okay. None. So thank you each and every. Thank you, Mr. Benga. Someone is any certificate.